welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast, and we are going to kill it today. We have our Spotify and Apple Radio, then we got YouTube as well. Then we have ssempowered.com. We have free blogs and guides. Also, if you're looking for us to email us amazing fitness questions, it's strengthsolutionsempowered@gmail.com. Then Facebook, it's Strength Solutions. TikTok, it's strength.solutions.pod. And Instagram, it's Strength Solutions Empowered. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Okay, dude. So how can you lose weight without doing anything differently?
Without doing anything differently?
Or stressing yourself out?
Okay, that's a better one. I was like, you got to do something different. Man, there's a couple ways. I think that one of the main ones that I like to do, especially in terms of like stress, is managing sleep a lot. That's like the one thing that I've noticed that, number one, I mean, it just makes you feel better in general. And I know we talk about sleep all the time. But I think that is the one thing that people don't do, that realize that like halts their weight loss, that stops it from progressing or even happening at all, really.
So I have a question. I gave you something after the podcast we shot on Friday.
Yeah. Actually,
we're not going to talk about what it is.
Okay.
Because we'll have a sleep episode next week.
Okay.
And how's your sleep been?
It's funny. I was actually thinking about that on the way over here, and I was like, I'm going to start the podcast off with asking about that. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So I've been taking it since the day you gave it to me. I think I took it that day. I think I skipped a day in between, so I didn't take it Saturday. But I've taken it Sunday, Monday, and then I'll probably take it again tonight. The one thing that I'm noticing is not so much that it makes me like tired or anything. I've been taking it, so I don't know the rules or whatever, but I've also been taking it about an hour before I go to bed.
Okay.
That's like about the time that I'll sip it down. And I've noticed that it keeps me asleep. That's what I notice the most. So I tend to toss and turn. I'll wake up multiple times throughout the night, and then I wake up tired, Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about what we talked about on our last podcast a lot, about routines. And having a routine and stuff like that. And, for a while I was like, I'm going to try and get 7 hours every night. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to cut whatever I'm doing and just be done. But dude, it's unfortunately just like not realistic for me in terms of like coming home from work kind of late sometimes, needing to work on our stuff still. And so the most that I can get is 6, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to nail 6 then. Like, that is going to be my routine. I'm going to nail 6 every single time. And in the past, when I would get 6 hours sleep, I wake up super tired, bro. Like, just like feeling like I didn't get any sleep at all. And I think that's why I was so on like, I got to get more sleep. I got to get more, because I was just tired all the time. And I don't think it was in fact that I had a lower quality of sleep. I don't think it was about the quantity of sleep, but I think it was about the quality of sleep. And so I've been taking these, and last night I think I got about 6 hours. And I woke up, bro, and I just felt good, man. Like, I felt like I actually slept.
Yeah. Did it kind of help, like when we talked to Joseph on Friday about sleep and
it's funny too.
Quality? Yeah,
and it's funny too, because like sometimes I think that you just hear something one time and you're like, okay, and maybe it's like from the right person or whatever it is. And
don't worry when Edwin tells you it's not good.
No, it's the same thing like when you have like your partner tell you something, you're like, no, and then like you tell me something, I'm like,
Don't worry, guys. I told him all about his wrist and forearm exercises, but Beto, let me tell you,
I'm not going to do it. So it has definitely helped a lot. I'm going to keep taking it, continue throughout this week, and see if I can kind of like maybe regulate a new sleep schedule, and just see how I feel. I'm going to continue to try and do 6, see how it helps throughout that 6 hours, and go for it. So it's definitely helped, man, whatever it is. I know it's Viagra, bro. I know that's what it is, bro.
We'll get into Viagra later. But another way to really lose weight without changing a lot is changing your environment and not eating with distractions. I remember having a client one time, and I was like, get off your Netflix account.
Yeah. She
literally ate less and she lost weight.
And I think you just like also enjoy your food more. Correct. That's something for sure. Cause I'm definitely guilty of being a screen watcher. I'm an iPad kid, so I'm on it a lot. there's times where
guys, while we're on the podcast, we have to have a screen behind this that he looks at.
It's showing Family Guy right now. It's just
This is Peter Griffin.
But yeah, so there's times where I'll sit down and, I'll sit down with Camille or I'll sit down with Chris or we all sit down together and eat. And it truly is like a different experience. You talk a little bit more. Maybe sometimes you don't talk, and that's okay too, because not being stimulated is also important.
Yeah.
And so it is nice to do that.
I could tell you this. When we sit down with just the family, me and the kids, and we have a conversation, we're at the dinner table for about an hour and a half. It makes a huge difference when it comes to us actually eating and enjoying our meal and enjoying the conversation.
Yeah. There's especially like the family environment and trying to connect with each other and things like that. We all know this, like screens do disconnect us, right? And things like that. And so even if you're at the table and everybody's scrolling on their phone, it feels kind of shitty, And so it is nice to kind of just sit down and have nothing going on and just eat together. And like you said, I think in terms of weight loss, without changing your whole entire life or whatever it is, that is a good one because you just focus more on your food and you're going to get full faster.
Yeah. The next one's my favorite, walks after meals. And I do this pretty much after every dinner for the most part, especially when the weather's good. And it makes a huge difference because you digest your meal. You get 10 minutes of just being vertical, so everything feels through the body much better. You get a walk with a partner.
Yeah.
Or walk with a family member.
Yeah.
Have a good conversation, reconnect. So you get to kill multiple birds with a stone. Or, scones.
Like if you eat without distractions, right? And if you walk after having a meal, like think about just in general how much time you're spending with each other, like your family, whether it's your kids or your partner, or even just yourself, like those are all super important things that I think that help a lot in terms of especially managing stress.
Yeah. And the next one is just eating in a certain food order. So
what does
eating
that
your
mean?
Protein and vegetables first, and then having your carbohydrates. So from a scientific end, there's a person called Glucose Goddess, and they talk about how if you eat a certain food, your insulin spike is much higher if you have like the carbohydrate first without the protein. It makes a difference. I'm not going to say that makes the huge difference, but what I find for most people that makes the huge difference is they're fuller.
Yeah.
They feel less likely to eat as much carbohydrates because they're already stuffed. And the stuff that doesn't taste as good, it's harder to overconsume.
Yeah. And I think the thing there too that you're saying is that a lot of people do eat carbohydrates first, right? Or they eat them with the meal or whatever it is. And then it makes it hard when you're done with those to eat the protein afterwards, right? Correct. So then you're missing out on the protein that you need in order to build muscle or, lose weight or all of those things, or just prioritizing protein in general. So I think that's actually a really good one. I've never really thought about it that way, but that's a good one.
They call me the God.
It's because I don't eat carbs. Actually, I'm going to go home today and make some rice. I've been eating a lot of rice.
Bro, that's how you get gains is carbs.
Yeah. Nothing else.
Just straight carbs.
Yeah, just rice.
And the last one is keeping a food journal. So just writing down what you just ate so that way you can see it on paper. And when you do this, it kind of slows you down. You don't have to write the amount you ate. Just write what type of food. And do that meal after meal after meal. And then you can connect things like my gut didn't feel as good this day versus another day. And it could be literally, I had corn 2 of those 3 days that my gut didn't feel good. Maybe it's corn. Take out corn and then reintroduce it. And then I'm like, okay,
that was that. Yeah. Right now I'm back on taking my supplements better. And by supplements, I mean like fiber, multivitamin. I take an allergy medication as well. I'm trying to
Viagra.
Yeah, my Viagra.
This is sponsored by Viagra.
Yeah,
guys.
I just take it every day.
Look at his Woody.
I just in the morning. This is what I do. Yeah.
Just walk around the gym like that.
You ready to go? I'm ready to go. So, whoa.
It's actually a good vasodilator for weights.
It is. Yeah. So I've been better on those. I'm actually I'm like contemplating my supplements right now because I was taking pre-workout. I still have my protein sitting around. I don't really take protein as often. So I think once I'm finished with that, I probably will stop buying protein. Today I was kind of thinking about creatine again and some other stuff like that. But I think I might buy some things. Anyway, getting off of that is that when I take my fiber, I notice that I feel a lot better. right? Like my gut feels a lot better. I don't feel as bloated, things like that. I've also been telling you and on the podcast that I'm trying to stay away from dairy. Remember I told you this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit. So it was like this weekend we went somewhere.
Go ahead, get into it.
Yeah. And a lot of the food that was there, it was like a special event, was all dairy. Like it was all just cheese and like cream and just everything was there. And then the same thing too, you go to like the other day we were eating at home and I was like, man, I really want a sandwich right now. And so I was like making a turkey sandwich and I put mayonnaise on it and I was like, fuck, man, that has dairy in it too.
So you put cheese on it too? Or
No.
just
Yeah, obviously.
I was like, cheese is fucking dairy, bro.
Yeah. What, bro? No way. Yeah. But I was just like, man, everything has dairy in like at least American culture, right? Like so much stuff. And in other cultures too, like curries have dairy, right? They're all cream based. Like any Italian food. I was looking at some of the like meal simple things they have at our grocery store, HEB. And dude, like everything is like cheese this, cheese that, stuffed steak this, whatever. And I was like, fuck, man, like I can't eat anything that has dairy in it and everything has it. And since I've been trying to stay away from it more, I'm going to be honest, I have not been able to cut it out just because there is so many things that have dairy in it. But since I've been staying away from it more, bro, man, I feel so much better, dude. Like my digestive system feels so much better. I'm not taking a dump as much or like it's not as like regulated. Yeah. And it just feels so much better, man. And so
I need to get the poop chart out so you can tell me which poop it looks like.
Which one is this? Yeah, and it's funny because like now that I'm back on my fiber, it's like a little bit different. But I think that once I continue it again, it'll like self-regulate again because the microbiome is different and stuff. But yeah, man, I'm really trying to stay away from that. But I've noticed that since I have, I feel better, right? And I bet if I were to reintroduce it in the same way, like eat a whole pizza or something like that.
Do it.
I'd probably fucking just throw up, man.
Hey, let's have pizza after this.
No, it's like making me feel not good right now.
So that party you're at, everything had dairy. Was there anything that didn't have dairy?
I mean, so there was like vegetables, like they had like ranch. They had like vegetables, like a tray, I guess you could say. They had like a fruit tray as well, stuff like that. But then it's like, the dip is ranch or, it's this or whatever. And I was just like, man, dude, like can't really have, any of this stuff. And you tend to see that a lot, like at potlucks or whatever. Someone's like, I brought macaroni this or like, whatever that. And I was just, dude, even at HEB, I was picking up some things so that I could eat them on the go and stuff. And it's like a lot of like those like fast, like microwave meals and stuff like that. It's like, even if it's healthy, it's like macaroni or cheese this or whatever that. And I was like, dude, what am I supposed to do here? Yeah. Like literally, if anybody has lactose intolerance, I feel you. I
feel bad for you.
Yeah, thanks.
So if you're still alive after this eclipse and you're still seeing our podcast here,
somehow.
Everybody went crazy.
Yeah, it was fun. Did you get to catch it?
Yeah, I caught it. It was cloudy here, but
it was very cloudy. Yeah, I think I saw the actual like physical eclipse happening maybe like 3 times. But other than that, it was just waiting for the darkness to happen, and it was pretty cool, dude. Like we were outside. I think it was like 1:20 when we stepped outside, and it was like just cloudy. Like it wasn't super dark or anything. And I couldn't find the sun. I was like, I don't know where the hell it is. Finally, I spotted it out in the corner, and it was like maybe a little more than half covered. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And then it was funny, like after that, it was just by the second, dude. It was just getting darker and darker and darker. And then once it hit like totality, all of the like solar lights that we have, like all like turned on and stuff. And I was like, cool, this is super weird. Yeah.
The street lights here turn on.
Whoa, for real?
Yeah.
That's badass, man. It's like a once in a lifetime event. We're never going to have that again. We'll be dead before the next one.
That's 20 years, bro. Are you going to be dead in 20 years?
But not in San Antonio. It won't be here. Yeah.
It's not like you can't drive like everybody did at Kerrville.
I guess you could, right? But it's like, I think they said the last solar eclipse in San Antonio was at like 1300 or something like that. So it's just really cool that it passed through here.
Yeah. People went crazy.
How was it for you? Did you guys go anywhere?
No, I was here, and then just right up the road, the school's at. We just set up across the street. The kids were all screaming, ah! And I was like, calm down.
It's not that serious.
Then you hear like gunshots, pop, pop, pop. And then you hear firecrackers.
Yeah, I saw there was like fireworks shows at some places.
Calm down, fellas. It's just an eclipse.
Not that crazy.
Although it did get me thinking that people have FOMO. because I was driving back out to home at 10:30 because I usually have a break Monday in the middle of the day, so I could do computer work. And dude, it took me like 40 minutes to get home.
Whoa.
Because everybody was going out to Kerrville, try to Bernie, all out that way. And I was just thinking to myself, people are just really fear of missing out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
And like understandable, I guess, like in some situations, you know, but not enough to cause like hysteria.
The problem I had with it is like, it's cloudy. You're not really going to get that better of a view over there.
Yeah. I feel bad
cloudy.
for anybody that traveled here because I was like, you got the shit in the deal. You should have went somewhere else.
Should have gone to Chicago.
Yeah. Or even like I saw Dallas had pretty good sight lines of it too. Yeah.
All right. So you sent this to me. Okay. And it was a published article, Journal of Pediatrics. It was by NBC News. And they talked about how teenage girls and women in their 20s have a higher rate of prescription drugs for antidepressants than young men since 2020. And theirs has been going up, and young men has actually been abruptly declining since the March of 2020.
Yeah.
And did not recover. I was thinking about like, why is this possible? And I think just it could be one reason is guys are just holding on and not saying anything because there's been this attack on men being soft now.
Yeah.
And first you say to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And now you say to be soft. And so these guys are just holding it in.
Yeah. It kind of like at first I sat and thought, and I was like, well, you know, it's been researched that women are more likely to go get, you know, help from a therapist than men are.
That as
like
well.
that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but this is different because it's like there's that abrupt like cut down. I think it was in March of 2020. It says here, right?
Correct.
That men's prescription antidepressants rate went down while women's continued to either be the same or climb or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, well, like what's March of 2020? You know, like that was around COVID, you know, maybe people couldn't get out as much to go get it or whatever it is, or maybe they're not as likely to do like a virtual type therapy. I'll be honest, like I hate virtual therapy, bro. Like I won't do it. Like if it's not in person, then I don't really want to do it unless there's no other option and I have to do it this way. There's just something about talking to someone physically, you know, and I'm like, maybe guys prefer that more, you know, maybe, and it's making it hard to go out and get those things. Or I do like what you're saying. I think there was a culture shift during that time too, you know, like it was like happening. And then I think with the isolation and stuff, people were able to be in their bubbles more often, or social media became more of the conversation piece where, you know, all you do is it's like an echo chamber for most of us, right? Like you guys don't understand. Like if you're on social media, all you have is an echo chamber. You know, it's not real life. Yeah. Cause even us, you know what I mean? I go through there and I'm like, wow, fitness is so cool and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is my echo chamber. You know what I mean? I'm not getting any new information from this. Maybe sometimes, right? But maybe that's what it was, to where, like you said, it kind of created this culture of like, we don't need men, we don't need the whatever. And then so now as guys, we're like, well, shit, now I have to be even like more tough, you know? And so I can't go get there because, you know, my girl's going to call me weak, or my friends are, or something like that. You know what I mean? And so it is interesting, and I hope that this changes.
Yeah. And it makes me think of why so many guys have moved into the red pill movement, which is more of a traditional kind of setting, and the wife stays at home. And you see a lot of these podcasts that are popular about it. And I could see, for example, myself in my 20s, maybe even before, in your 20s, before you had a kid and all that stuff, or while you had a kid early on, you probably could have fell into this group easily because they give you a sense of control of where to head and lead as a guy, when in reality, it's not the best way to lead. It's a way to lead, right? The alpha male and all that stuff, but it doesn't show compassion.
And I think the other thing too is that it's also a support group for some people, right? Especially for guys, where we don't, you know, let's be honest, like we don't, like I talk to you about a lot of stuff, but we're super close. You know what I mean? With my other guys that I know and stuff, like I'm not really talking to them about what I'm going through or how I feel, or there's no community, you know, between like men sometimes. And when that comes around and all these guys are there and everybody's saying the same thing. And, it feels like you have a community. You have some people that believe like you do, or who are going to support you through that, or encourage you to continue doing something,
or blame an outside force like a woman.
Or blame an outside force, right? Which is way easier than ever having to take responsibility for something that you do yourself, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's clear that these things, and then, going back to the prescription thing, a lot of those guys are like, just man up, just be this, just do that, just do whatever, stop being a bitch. And then so maybe a lot of guys are like, fuck that, I don't need therapy. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna just thug it out, or I'm gonna just go to the gym, or I'm gonna invest in crypto or whatever it is, And then so you just like leave all those things behind and you're like, I'm gonna just do this.
Yeah, dude. Have you seen the alpha boot camps?
Yeah.
It makes me think of those and why men are doing it, because they don't feel like they have control, and they're like, I'm tough because I did this. No, you're tough because you raised the family well. There's different types of masculinity. We always talk about the toxic alpha, being aggressive and all that. But the provider, the protector, the compassionate one, showing someone how to lead properly and influence others. And I think that's a big part of like, I wish I had that guidance when I was younger. And that's why I'm trying to provide that guidance. I mean, Ethan's podcast was great. And I think that we're trying to help him and guide him in the right direction so he becomes a better man for whoever he decides to be with as a partner.
Or just for himself.
For himself and for his family in the future, just because I know he wants all that stuff. Right? And how does he navigate the world as a young man in today's age when it has shifted tremendously the last 10 years?
Like now, I think more than ever, people need good fathers, when there's so many of these other people who will take on that role, like the Andrew Tates of the world or whatever, who, if you're not careful, it's easy to listen to, and even for like our daughters and stuff like that. Like I talk to my daughter all the time, and I try to be like strong, but I also try and be understanding, where it's like,
see, you have it harder. We talked about that last time.
Yeah. Like the other day, something happened at school, and I was told by her teacher that she she took out a toy or something like that. And the teacher was like, hey, put that away. And, my daughter was like, oh, well, they told me to take it out. Like that. They told me that they wanted it, whatever. And so when she got home, I was like, look, I understand, that they convinced you or coerced you or said something to you to take it out. But I was like, but at the end of the day, you took it out. You made the decision to take it out. And I was like, because she was telling me, she was like, well, I passed it under the table so like nobody would see. And I was like, if you're passing it under the table, you knew it was the wrong thing to do. Like you knew that you were doing something wrong. And I was like, I totally understand how it feels when your friends are telling you to do something or all that stuff. And I was like, but you made the wrong decision and you just have to accept that. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm going to punish it. There's something that you have to do, no more. I don't want you taking shit to school at all anymore, like nothing. Cause I don't even want to hear about this again. And cause I was like, number one, this is just stupid. And so I was like, but you need to take responsibility for this, but in that sense where I wasn't just like, no, you fucked up. You did wrong. You shouldn't have done that, and whereas
had a conversation
about it. Yeah. And I let
her
talk.
Manly.
Yeah. Right. And like, I let her talk and I was like, I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you did the wrong thing in that moment, and you got to think better about what you're doing. So,
yeah. And it kind of sucks for you. Cause like, at least in that moment I would have been that role. And then Amanda would have came in behind me and just listened. And sometimes especially like we know a lot of women just want you to listen and hear and not correct. And it's hard, but like I notice when my daughters more, I think the reason why they go to Amanda and talk is because she just listens. I'm going to give them direction because I have to give them direction.
Right. And you should, right? Especially as we have to understand that, yes, they are women, but they're also children. Right. And they still need direction. And that's why I was like, I think I get through to my daughter better when I'm like, tell me what happened and talk to me about it. Right. And then I'm going to tell you what needs to happen now. You know what I mean? But if I were to just go in and say like, no, she's not going to talk to me about shit. You know what I mean? But I think the fact that she understands that I'm willing to have a conversation with her about it, even if I tell her she was wrong, she's way more open to talking to me, than if I were to just lose my shit.
Should have lost it, bro.
Next time, bro. I got you.
So
Throw it to
since
the
since you're finally into sex because you're on HRT, we're going to talk about sex on the podcast.
Okay.
Your generation, oh, Gen Z. Oh no, you're late. You're a Zennial.
I'm like
My
the
bad.
last of the millennials.
No, you don't count. Gen Z is having a problem having sex.
I know.
Lack
yeah.
of sex.
They can't
And
get
you
it
would
up.
think they're having so much because they have these OnlyFans women and all these alpha males having sex. But
Yeah.
for the majority of Gen Z, they are not having sex with partners.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to it, like being in that cusp, I can see like where it's difficult, and I can also see where maybe
The
it's
influence
something.
of the internet, social media.
Yeah. Porn. Right. And
yeah.
so it's like, I see it on
I see it on multiple fronts. I think
Yeah.
of it too as a risk taking, and I think a big part of it too that because you asked me why is this even a big deal at all?
Yeah.
When I sent the article to you, it's because we're made to procreate.
Yeah. Or I actually didn't even
Right.
realize that it was a problem. Right.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even know that
Yeah.
this was like an issue,
Yeah, and we're meant to procreate, so that's telling me we're taking both HRT. You're 26 years old, right?
No,
27?
bro, I'm going to be 28, dude. This month.
Damn.
Yeah.
I've been talking to you too long. We need a younger guy. Get Ethan in here.
I'm out.
Well,
Yeah.
but you're on HRT. You're a young guy. I'm
Yeah.
on HRT. I'm not that old either.
No.
And it's just common. It makes me think about the reason a lot of these guys are not having sex is because they don't have enough testosterone.
Yeah.
My symptom wasn't sex related. Yours
Right.
was sex related.
Mm.
And it's really interesting to me that could be part of the issue. And then part of the issue is birth control
Yeah.
and how it controls a woman's mind, even though Washington Post literally just wrote an article to gaslight women
Yeah.
into thinking birth control does nothing.
Keep taking it. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that in our water supply, the less activity and lifestyle, I think there is a deeper meaning behind it versus just lack of sex.
Yeah, I think that there's all of that, right? And then, I even see it on like an economic and financial front where it's like, I'm struggling to progress my life, right? Financially. I can only imagine how hard it's going to be for the generation below us, right? So it's like when you think about that and you're like, oh, I want to have a family. You're not even thinking about having family. You're thinking about numbers. You're thinking about, well, how am I supposed to even support that? How would I even do that? So like, it's almost even just removing that as an option, right? For a lot of people. So, along with all that, along with like social structures changing, along with like culture changing, along with low testosterone, it's like, dude, we're going to end up being in one of those, I forgot, like a population chart, where like the middle is the largest and then like the old age is a small and the young is a small bracket too, right? We're going to end up having the same problems that they have in like China or like.
Because the one child rule
Yeah,
or South
yeah.
Korea.
Like it's not that we have a law that says we only have one child, but at this point it's like difficult to have more than one. You know what I mean? I bet if you were to have a kid right now, there's no way you'd think about having 3 of them. But you were able to do it before any of this stuff happened. So you're in like a different state, than like anybody else. And so
it's like an economic issue.
yeah,
It's a health issue. It's a issue with culture.
yeah,
And it could be detrimental in the long term.
yeah. And I don't think that obviously nothing is going to be done to fix it, right? Like the government isn't going to do anything about this.
What do you mean? They do shit all the time.
yeah. Unless they start putting,
Republicans and liberals or Democrats, they always get along. They're just perfect friends.
They're going to start putting tea in the water, dude. That's what they're going to do.
Well, there's already estrogen and caffeine.
They might as well
whatever.
fucking like balance it out, right?
At least make it taste good. Yeah.
Can we get flavored tap water?
Flavor.
But yeah, so it's like
Kool-Aid.
at this point, I think it comes down to the individual, right? Like to the guys who are not feeling sexual drive or not feeling drive at all, right? To go get checked and go find out what's wrong. Yeah. Or, for people to change their perspectives, at this point it relies on the people because that's the only chance we have.
Yeah. Speaking of more sex, I gave you the article of Viagra and you're like, what the?
yeah. So apparently Viagra can help reduce the chances of getting dementia later in life, right?
It's a miracle drug, guys.
We figured it out. The fountain of youth, the cure to dementia.
Just Viagra. Walk around with the boner all day.
It's like, forget things. have a raging boner.
So, we say it's always Viagra for men, but I wonder why did they say Viagra for women? Because it's supposed to give them blood flow down there.
I remember, like that. I was like looking up one time, like what would happen if a girl took like, Viagra or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, Viagra, Cialis, all of those like boner pills, right, are just vasodilators. So they just make it easier for blood to flow, right? So they just open up the blood vessels. And so that's all it does. So all it really does is increase blood flow. You can get that from a lot of things, right? Not just Viagra, right? From pre-workouts or from water or
well, I mean, it's been the argument too. That's why caffeine's so vital to people.
Yeah.
And the argument of good research in caffeine, but you can overdo caffeine as well.
Right. Yeah. So it's like all of these things. At the end of the day, I think they're saying, what they should say is that increasing blood flow, right, has a good chance of reducing the chance of getting dementia later on. And there's a lot of ways to do that.
That has to do with good health to begin with, right? Like having good blood flow.
Right. Because at the end of the day, people who do have good blood flow are probably people who watch what they eat, exercise, do cardiovascular work, right? Don't eat or don't have high cholesterol, have lower blood pressure, all of these things, right? So it's not, again, it's one of those things where they're like, here's the magic thing that's going to fix this, when really it always boils down to just having better health, Yeah.
And then on this next one, I heard you want to join this group. It's called the White Hands in Japan. They help with males of disabilities to ejaculate.
Yeah. They could have.
You said that to me. I was like, damn, this guy wants to join them.
They could have picked a better name, bro.
White Hands, right?
Yeah. I was like, did you have to do that? But apparently in Japan, for people who are disabled or who are amputees, things like that, who can't masturbate, there's a group that goes around and helps these people to release. And it's funny because I was reading about it, and apparently like sexual culture obviously is going to be different everywhere, right? But it's very different in Japan. Whereas the physical part of sex or relationships is seen as almost like a medical thing. And it's not so much seen as like this.
It is a medical thing.
It is a medical thing, really, right? Like at the end of the day, it boils down to that too. Whereas the emotional aspect of relationships is seen as like, I guess, the main aspect of having a relationship. Like one of the guys in the article was saying that, cheating on someone physically is not seen as bad as cheating on someone emotionally. I'm pretty sure it goes case by case, right? But it's just to show that culture is so much different. Whereas I think honestly here, it's like if you cheat on someone physically, you're like, fuck it, I'm out. I'm never talking to you again, But if you cheat on someone emotionally, people are like, well, just don't talk to them anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost the exact opposite. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of agree with that kind of concept.
I get it too. Like, yeah. I do get it.
Physically, you can do things and not have connection. Yeah. Right. And where emotionally, if you're already emotionally invested, I don't have you anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think especially in terms of this right here, where it's like men, because I will say that this only said it was for guys. I don't know if they do it for women too, or if there's another organization or whatever it is, but I think it is where it's like, for women to get emotionally invested in someone else, that's like different, right? Because they're more emotional. Yeah. So it's like there's that huge aspect where if you do emotionally cheat on someone, especially if you're a woman and you're going to a different guy or vice versa, whatever it is, that's like way more serious. You know what I mean? I find, at least in my experience, that I've noticed that women can have sex more often without emotion attached. At least in my experience. My experience.
Because you're emotional.
Yeah, well, so like I can't. There's no fucking way.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. I did it for years.
Yeah, I can't do it at all. Yeah, like it like stresses me the fuck out.
No, I think it goes case by case, but I think I think the big part is when you look at it overall, like if you physically do something, right, at the end of the day, you're probably connecting like a friendship with your emotion, right? You're not just picking a girl. And if you look at escorts, when it comes to escorts, women escorts will say like the guy just like really wants to get the D done and get going. Where sometimes a male escort for a woman, literally they want you to do things that the husband doesn't do or the boyfriend doesn't do. They don't care about the sexual part.
They want
it's
a
about the
boyfriend
emotion.
Experience.
Yeah, they want the most spoiled and taken care of and doing things like that. They want the emotional part. So it's just a different cheating. Yeah. So that's what's coming from the escort realm, right? And they probably have more information on that type of style of cheating. Yeah. Versus anybody else. So it probably happens more where women cheat for that emotional bond.
Right.
because a lot of times you hear like even in relationships to where the wife is like, well, he wasn't paying attention to me. Well, that's more of an emotion versus an actual like physical.
She wasn't like, the sex sucked, so I went somewhere else.
And then you go on Reddit a lot of times, and it's always the male going like, she never has sex with me.
Yeah,
and
you're
then
totally
like,
right.
You know, and it's just different needs, right? And so when it's a physical cheat, right? There's no emotion involved. It's just like, let's get it done. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that guys can't get emotional and connected.
Sure.
Not saying that women can't just have sex. I mean, look at those porn stars. They have to be able to do it.
Yeah. It's like a requirement of the job.
Yeah. All right, let's move on away from sexual stuff into California's $20 an hour. Dude, did you see like all the price raising in California?
Yeah, so so California recently, I think, raised the minimum wage to $20 an hour. And since they did that, prices everywhere have increased. So I think that the photo that they provided was In-N-Out, like an In-N-Out menu, and it was like a picture of the menu beforehand and then afterwards, and it was like everything was like $2 more expensive. Like it was kind of insane. And then I think you sent me something. It
was the exact opposite.
On TikTok.
I think it was like a Five Guys.
Oh, okay.
It was like 15 cents per.
Yeah, and then good.
Oh, and then the video you were talking about was McDonald's. McDonald's decided to kick out a bunch of workers, replace the registers with online AI
it's like
as cashiers.
Yeah.
And they had a couple workers in the back.
And there was something else that you sent me too, where it was like a graph of the fast food places over the past 10 years and how they've increased prices. And that's funny to tie it into that because so number one, McDonald's was the number one. I think they had increased their prices by 100%. So everything is essentially doubled,
correct,
right, in price. Yeah. So I think he was showing that in 2014, you get a McDouble, which is my favorite, for like $1.14. And then now it's like $3.89 or some shit like that. It's fucking crazy. And then to think that the registers are now like being occupied with like a robot. Like, shouldn't it be cheaper? You know what I mean? Now, like, isn't that the point of all of this shit?
Inflation was only, let's just say 30%, right?
Yeah.
So
like
they literally doubled. They weren't anywhere close to inflation. So where I really want to go with this is that where has the morality gone pretty much? I feel like I talk to people and their morality is all business. And they're like, they chase the money. Now we have Apple that's so big that they're getting antitrust lawsuits. There's other companies like that as well. I was literally giving away like my bike that the kids had to a neighbor across the street. And they're like, you sure you don't want me to pay for this? I'm like, no, it's okay. It's part of my morals of like giving.
Yeah.
I was giving the safe to this older gentleman that came in and cut it out, and they took it home.
Did you give that away?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, you can have it. You know, I didn't have to pay for it. It was already here.
Oh, fair.
And it's just, I think we have to sell everything. We don't do anything for good anymore. It's not like really morals. It's worshiping money.
Yeah.
And these companies have taken advantage, and food companies are making record profits. Oil companies are making record profits. I'm all about capitalism, but there is a boundary in which that we should have morals for human impact.
Yeah. And also to like keep, I don't know, like the trust, you know what I mean? Because at this point too, it's like, let's take, for example, if McDonald's was a moral company, right? Or they had a bunch of ethics that they lived by, or providing cheap food for families that need it, or whatever it is, right? They probably wouldn't have raised their prices by 100%. You know what I mean? They would have kept them down as low as they possibly could to still make a profit, right? But also still live by their morals, right? They obviously don't, because they're a giant freaking mega company, right? And they're just trying to make profit, you know? There was other ones on the list, like Starbucks, I think had only risen by like maybe like 10% or something, which was kind of funny because I was like, damn, of all the places you'd expect Starbucks. But I think Starbucks also was already at a higher price point, so they don't really have to like go as high. But it's like, obviously all these companies, if they did have morals, they would be like, hey, times are really hard. Money's really tough. You know, let's help people out. Let's make, you know, and if we keep moving farther away from that, and it is just going to become more of like, how can I get one over on this guy so that I can prosper.
I do think you're going to see an exodus of people, and you've seen it where like people are leaving the country.
Yeah.
Right? And I was listening to this one video, and this guy was like, people complain about Mexico being poor and all that stuff. They only make $20 an hour. And he was like, well, my meal only costs $2. Right.
Yeah.
So it's all based off of like, what are the cost of things? My parents travel and they talk about how cheap food is, and they're at a fine dining restaurant. And I think because of social media, this is a good part of social media, I think people are starting to understand that we're being scammed into thinking, oh, I'm making $100,000 a year, but there's no value to your $100,000 a year.
Yeah. 100,000 a year is like what you need to like maybe live comfortable here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Crazy.
it's just it goes back to morality, where I feel like even everyday conversations I have with people, it's about like, oh, you should sell that item from your thing and on Facebook instead of just giving it to somebody who needs it.
Yeah.
We've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
We stopped donating and stopped like helping people who actually need help. This last one, talk about morality, and I think where the medical field's good to go. Costco. I think I just sent it to you today. So if you have a membership, for $179, you could get a clinical consultation, which patients can select their own clinician, take part of initial live video consultation and message their clinician outside of a scheduled appointment. Patients will also receive nutritional guidance and recommendations based on their medical history, weight loss needs. They'll be guided to go through clinically appropriate treatment program that includes prescriptions for weight loss medicine like Ozempic and Wegovy for $179.
See, this is the thing, dude, because this is what Amazon did too, right? Where they're like trying to provide health insurance or something like that, or like Amazon Care, you know? And it's like now businesses are going to start. I don't know, man. It just seems like a scary concept, you know, to where like businesses are now tied with our healthcare. And then it's like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, government's not doing any better here.
Yeah.
But at least cheaper. $179, dude. They're trying to charge $1,000 at the doctor's office.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's
and then you have this virtual quick appointment. You know you need to lose weight. You know you need this, and it's only a 3-month subscription, so it's not like you got to get reevaluated. You got to get back through. Like, and it's $179. It's probably like a quick chat. They look at your blood work. It's not going to be a doctor that's going to sit down and talk to you.
Yeah,
and this is where I believe, kind of where we need to deregulate the health space. And I believe listening to a podcast like this or other ones that we listen to who try to give you real information about items, like I would tell you, go for it, but it's just a tool. You still got to learn how to eat right. You still have to learn how to move. You still have to work out. You still got to do the things, sleep right. Overall, it's just a tool.
The thing is that I feel like a lot of people are going to move into something like this because, like you're saying, it's like, hey, it's a quick thing. You just kind of chat with them, you know, you go over whatever, and then they prescribe you whatever you need. Bro, that's what happens when you go to the doctor. You know what I mean? That's what happens now. No doctor is going to sit down with you and listen to your issues and let's talk about it and let's figure out a plan of care or whatever it is. Because they got 3 clients scheduled at the same time, you know, because they're trying to get people in. And one of them is going to cancel. So they're like stacking shit up. So they're always behind on their crap, you know? So this is no different. If anything, it might even be better because at least you're like, hey, I'm scheduled for this 1 hour to talk to you about whatever it is. Right. And so I'm going to get through it and get done and get my prescription and ask you questions and then on to the next one, you know?
And this is without insurance.
And this is without insurance. You know, $179 is what most people will pay for insurance. And then on top of that, have to pay other stuff. Or they're going to pay more because they're paying for their whole family or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it comes down to just price point, dude.
Yeah. And they're not like tied to an insurance company. So they have to pay a certain medicine amount. And then they upcharge all this thing. The other day we talked about Ozempic only costing $5, but yet they're charging $1,000 in insurance companies. I understand they got to make profit to make money back, but that much when you could go to a compound pharmacy or someone that's, you know, a lot cheaper.
It goes back to the morality thing, you know, there's no morality anymore.
All right, let's get into our studies. The first one is researchers have mapped out how the brain regulates emotions. The study identified multiple emotions and regulation systems, providing targets for therapy. You know, I was thinking about this. I think this was pretty cool. But I was like, there's 2 outcomes here. They can come up with better treatments, or they could give you like the Neuralink that Elon's making, and he wants to seem like he's your friend, all these guys who are Elon fans. and take advantage of your brain and your emotions and make you sell stuff to you while you put that link in and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was reading it and it was an interesting article. And it's kind of interesting how it was saying that like this was about the self-regulation, right? Mm-hmm. And how your body kind of self-regulates and what happens. And I think that they were talking a lot about how a lot of it comes down to self-regulation, perspectives, self-talk, things like that. Because what they were doing is like showing people, all they said was like a negative image. So I don't know what it was, a house burning down. I don't know. And then we're like, okay, now we want you to think about it in a positive light. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, at least everybody was okay or something like that. And the way that your brain self-regulates. And it's funny too, because going through therapy, going through things like that, I've never really taken medication. I have in the past, but not in years for like mental health stuff. And a lot of it, dude, if you have a good therapist, I think comes down to them being like, you have to learn how to self-regulate. You can't go to other people. You can't take medication. You can't do, you have to learn how to deal with this shit on your own. Mm-hmm. Figure out a plan, figure out a tool, whether it's breathing or perspective change, like I said, or self-talk. Like all of those things are what truly make a difference, and that's like hard because a lot of people do want something like this where it's like, give me the fucking chip or give me the medication, right? That'll like target that exact area of my brain. And then at the end of the day, it ends up being the same concept as like with weight loss. It's like, if you're not doing the work, then it's just, it's not actual results,
Mm-hmm. Eggs, or a second study, eggs may not be bad for your heart after all. Subgroup analysis signal a possible benefit among older adults with those of diabetes.
Yeah. How long have eggs been demonized, bro? Like Why? Even to this day. Yeah. It's
because it has cholesterol. People think it adds to your cholesterol, but that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. Yeah. I'll never forget. I was in a nutrition class in school years ago when I was going to like Santiago college. And she was like, like we're going to do like a little food log to see like, how your stuff does. It was like this website. And I remember that I told her that I was like, I eat a lot of eggs. And she was like, oh, that's probably why it says your cholesterol is high. And she was like, but to be honest with you, we don't actually know what happens when you ingest cholesterol. Like it doesn't raise your cholesterol. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And I was like, oh, for real? And she was like, yeah, this was years ago. So maybe research has come out since then. But that like changed my perspective on stuff. Cause I was like, damn, that's just what I've been told. You know what I mean? You eat a lot of eggs, you get high cholesterol, you die. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why your uncle had a heart attack, or that's why, because he ate eggs all the time. And I'm like, bro, I eat eggs all the time, every day. You know what I mean? And it's like, it just doesn't work like that. And I think that a lot of people should be eating more things like this because it's like cheap, it's easy, it's a high protein source. You know what I mean? It's healthy, it's got hella vitamins, and it's like, it needs to stop being demonized.
All right, guys, you can find us on Apple and Spotify. Rate and review us. Also, we're on YouTube. Please leave a comment below and subscribe. Then our website is ssempowered.com. We have free blogs and guides coming out and programs for purchase. You can email us at strengthsolutionsempowered@gmail.com. Strength Solutions on Facebook, strength.solutions.pod on TikTok, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Empowered. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
All right, let's get ready for these fitness questions. The first one's by Jamie. I guess as someone who is a newbie, my brain goes straight to asking about building my foundation and credibility as a trainer, getting past that imposter syndrome.
Oh, okay.
So I know who Jamie is, and I think the first thing getting rid of imposter syndrome is literally understanding you already know more than the person across from you. And you're not going to be perfect early on. It took me years to figure out what I'm doing. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And you can't let the imposter syndrome take over.
Yeah. I mean, even to this day, sometimes now I'm like, oh man, I hope my client doesn't think this is like stupid or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then like literally in the same moment, I'll be like, I could probably tell them to do anything and they would just do it.
Because like, go like this.
Yeah. And they'd be like, okay. Because I'm the trainer. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that number one, coming into this, getting past that imposter syndrome isn't really about anything else but building confidence in yourself. Because right now, I think that's the main thing, is that maybe you don't have enough confidence in yourself to be like, oh, I know what I'm doing, or I know this, or I can help this person, or whatever it is. So I think that finding that confidence in yourself is the number one step to being, because at this point, me and you, like, I feel like we're probably two of the best trainers in San Antonio. I can say that on the podcast easy, you know, and I don't have any, like, I'm not like, well, maybe, you know, whatever. I'm like, no, we probably have to be. And so it's just that at that point you have that confidence and that experience. And like you said, it's not going to happen next week. It's probably maybe not even going to happen in a year.
Yeah.
But I think the more people that you get in front of and the more that you realize like, oh, I am learning. And that's another thing too, is continue learning.
Always ask questions.
Always ask questions, build knowledge. If you don't know the answer, go find it, because I think that the more that you increase your knowledge base, the more confidence generally you're just going to have. You know, when someone comes to you and says, hey, what about this? And you don't know, that's a big moment where you're like freaking out. And you're like, fuck, like they probably think I'm dumb, or like that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But once you go back and even if you just tell them like, I don't know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to find out. Number one, you're going to build respect for them and you're increase your knowledge base.
Yeah. And ask questions. That's why we have the podcast here. That's why I always like ask, like, for example, Ethan has learned a lot through us just because he keeps on asking.
Yeah.
And the more you ask, the more you get to know. Like I loved our conversation with Joseph on Friday, that, you know, he is a very intelligent man because he works hard. He goes over his work. And I miss that companionship that I used to have at the gym and just bounce ideas back and forward off of him. And do we agree on everything? No. But we're to get really good ideas and we're to get closer to the truth.
Yeah. And that's good too, right?
All right. This next one is Gabe Cardona. And he asks, how much cardio, if any, is recommended during Amplify? What type of cardio do you recommend? So Amplifiers are a 3-day-a-week program. And Gabe's going to be doing it. He just started.
Dude.
And I think as long as you don't pass the 2-hour mark and your goal is to build muscle, because I know what it is, and to look leaner, you're pretty fine.
Yeah.
So he's an F45 coach. I said, if you do F45, because I know the coaches do it a lot,
right,
it's considered cardio.
Definitely. Yeah.
So don't pass 2 hours.
Yeah. I would say maybe you do it like twice a week. I don't know how long the classes are. Right.
They're about 45 minutes. That's why they call it a 45.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought I had to do like a military thing. I don't know.
So that's an hour and a half for 2 classes.
Okay.
So you still got 30 minutes left.
Yeah. Perfect. Right. I would say just cut it there. Right. Do 3 days a week of training and then 2 F45 classes. Take the rest of the time to active recover. Right. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I think definitely I would watch. These are the same things I usually say about cardio, especially when trying to build muscle. Like, try not to do it on the same day. If you are going to do it on the same day, make sure it's after your training, right? After your like amplified training. Best if you do it a separate day, right? Like Monday you train amplify, Tuesday you do F45, right? Those types of things. I think when it comes down to cardio, do whatever you want. You know what I mean? If it's F45 stuff, do that. If you want to go for a run, or if you like rowing or riding a bike, I think whatever you're going to enjoy. I would maybe say watch the intensity, right? If you're doing super intense classes, then you want to do a shorter time frame. So maybe they have 30-minute classes that are more like HIIT intensive or whatever it is. Maybe do those, right? If it's a longer drawn out cardio session, you can maybe do for the 45. But I would mostly watch intensity.
Yeah, that's where the amp sessions are important, and your recovery in between sessions.
Yeah,
is vital.
Yeah. Like, man, I would maybe say like do 30 minutes of cardio and then add in that amp session, you know, and then you get your whole hour of whatever it is. But
and amp sessions are meant to be light. So he was asking me what amp sessions were.
Oh, okay.
And it's for facilitating recovery and sending another signal to the body to help build a certain body part. So if I wanted to build chest, maybe I would do push-ups and chest flies with the band to help facilitate a signal to build my chest some more.
It's so funny, like how many people don't know what those are, because I didn't know what they were either, right? And
I showed this fool.
And I skipped them the first time. The first time I ran a program with things like that, I was like, this is dumb, I'm not doing this. And then the next time I was like, you know what, I'll run it right and I'll do it. And it did definitely help. And I noticed in a lot of the powerlifting programs that I'm doing now, there's always one day that's like a recovery day. And you do like lighter sets of squats, lighter sets of bench, and it's like, dude, these are like foundations that have been around forever, you know? But I think that you just lose them.
Yeah. And you do those lighter sets of squat, one for form and technique, and then recovery in the movement.
Right.
Lighter sets of bench press for technique, and it's
recovery. It's the same concept, right?
All right. This one comes from Ellie Newman.
What's up, Ellie? Let's go.
Hey. My doc says I have insulin resistance. What exactly is insulin resistance, and how does it affect my body? What factors contribute to the development of insulin resistance?
Oh, interesting.
I'll let you answer first. You good?
Yeah. So insulin resistance is your body's inability to like use insulin, right? And to manage glucose levels in the muscle, in the bloodstream, all those types of things. So I'm not really sure why your doctor said you have insulin resistance, or maybe what symptoms you're having.
Probably the A1C.
Yeah, probably A1C, right? And then there's a lot of things that can contribute to insulin resistance. Number one, I'm gonna say, is lack of muscle.
Damn, you stole it, you son of a bitch.
Shouldn't have let me go first, but I tried to let you go.
That's right,
yeah. Maybe diet. Right. Oh, what you're eating, is it high carbohydrate? I think when you're looking at insulin resistance, you might also want to take a look into like the glycemic index, right? Which is how quickly sugar gets metabolized in the body. So like simple carbohydrates versus more complex carbohydrates, things like that. I don't know, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so I want to talk about muscle and why muscle is so vital. So muscle is like one of the places where you store carbohydrates and where you can actually uptake more. So the more muscle you have, the better it is for you. So I think about a couple of episodes ago, I think it was cardiovascular issues, and we talked about people who are normal weight having these issues, and it was about 20%. So it's a high minority. That's why muscle is so important.
Right.
As far as diet goes, that's where things like the glucose goddess kind of help. Timing of food helps. Of like after a workout, you can have a little bit more carbohydrates if you're having these issues. And then what was the last thing that you said?
I can't remember. I will say I'm gonna go into this too, because I know this person. So I know that she also recently had children.
Yeah.
And so that's going to change a lot too, right? With like hormones, things like that. I don't know if there was maybe gestational diabetes like during the thing that could also have a role into it. But yeah, building muscle is going to be the main thing, because it helps for more places to store sugar, right? And it also helps in metabolizing sugar whenever you use it, whenever you work out, things like that. So I would kind of take a look into a lot of those things, maybe looking into resistance training again, right? Getting back on some sort of routine to build muscle and help your body's resistance to insulin. It doesn't necessarily mean you have diabetes, right? To where you need exogenous insulin placed into the body. But it is one of those things that like it could get to that point, you know, if you don't.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example of like why strength training is so important. Is I literally had a client who was on metformin. And literally lost only 5 pounds. The doctor thought he was going to have to lose like 20, 25 pounds. Lost 5 pounds, but because we lifted weights, he was really doing well in that category and building muscle. He only needed to lose 5 pounds and get off his metformin.
Wow. I was watching another podcast too, and they had this quote, and they were like, it's better to be fat and strong than be like skinny and weak. Right. And what they mean by
research on that.
Yeah. And what they mean by that is that the more muscle mass you have, just your whole health level increases. Right. It's so much different. Like I'd rather be 200 pounds right now and have, 87 pounds of muscle than be 150 pounds and have 40 pounds of muscle. Like I'm going to be so much healthier now than I would be at a lower weight, despite what people think.
Yeah. And then this last question is by Melanie. People often get discouraged with a plateau or lack of results. What opportunities in your program do you have for someone who falls off regularly? I know you mentioned previously that clients has to put in the work.
Sure.
How do you motivate your clients without harshness to come out and put in the work even on days off days? Another touching point is a lot of people fixate on diet consumption or calories, etc., but clients need to be aware of the side effects of medications. I know you aren't doctors, but things like steroids, allergy season, all that yada yada. Or oral steroids can strengthen lungs for breathing assistance, but it isn't inclusive, meaning under targeted body parts will also grow, furthering physical results.
Man, this is a loaded question.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, let's take the first one, right?
Take the first part about lack of motivation and stuff like that. I think as far as the days off go, the first thing you got to do is how would you talk to your friend?
Yeah.
Having empathy of, okay, I was just off. I didn't have a good day.
Yeah.
Maybe you do mobility that day. Maybe you don't do the full workout.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time. It's about building habits. And I think I really have, as a trainer, some of the best clients because they come on their days off.
Right. Yeah. Like yeah, exactly. I have so many clients who come in, and number one, I think it says it's a testament to us to be able to like deal with those types of situations, right? Where some trainers maybe might be like, oh, you feel bad today? Well, I only have this program, so we're just going to do it anyway. Like I had a client come in the other day and she was like, this is probably the first time that I'm going to tell you that I like don't feel great today. Like, you know, I'm just not feeling that good. I don't know if I can do what we're going to do. And we kind of went on in this whole conversation. I was like, all right, let's get some light shit done. You know, like let's just work through it. And I think that is important. I think the main thing with me and you is that instead of a client coming in and saying like, I don't feel it today. And where most trainers would be like, you better fucking push today or whatever it is, or we're going to hit it harder, you know, because you don't feel good or whatever it is like the empathy there is that a lot of times I'll be like, okay, you're telling me that you're not in it today. And that's fine. Right. Like I'm not in it today also, you know, like, let's just get through this. Let's get through the workout. And then, you know, Thursday you'll feel better or whatever it is. Right. So I think that honestly, the best motivator is being an empathetic individual, because I promise you that client is already talking shit to themselves. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you don't need to be an outside person. They need someone who's going to understand.
Yeah. And we want you to build a positive relationship with exercise so that you do it forever. If you build this negative, like you only have to go beast mode, you have to kill yourself all the time, you're never going to want to go into a gym. Yeah. You're never going to want to work out. You're either going to do it like all in or you're going to be all out.
Or you build like a punishment mentality. Yeah. Right?
And this way you come in, maybe you do 20 minutes of walking, but that would have been better than 0.
Yeah, definitely. And like giving yourself the credit. And I think as a trainer, you have to be the one that gives them the credit for it.
You got to highlight small wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you know, like even that day I was like, man, I'm so happy you came in today. Like I'm really glad that we did our machines or that we did this or that we did our bands or we finally addressed that mobility issue that, you know what I mean? Like every time that you come into the gym is a win.
And then as far as our programming, why it's so great is because we typically base our programming off a full body. So actually, if you do miss a day, it's not a big deal. Yeah. And then the second thing is in our programming, we like to repeat. And the reason we repeat is to know you're getting better. Where if you get a lot of programs for the average individual, they're probably going to have this week you're doing squat for your legs. The next week you're doing a goblet squat, or the next week after that, you're doing a sumo squat. You never know if you're getting better at a movement or you're getting stronger, and you're always guessing. Yeah. And so that way we like, okay, you're to repeat this for 3 weeks, and then we're to see if you're better or not each week. We can make adjustments. Why are you not better this week? Let's say you squat the first time and the second time you don't get better. Well, let's work on your ankle mobility because I noticed that you're having issues there. Then by the third week, you're getting better. We're like, okay, we figured out why you're having the issue. And then it gives you the ability to get better. And plateaus are going to happen, but that's why in our programs as well, we give you a 3 to 6 weeks in the same phase, and then you can move on to the next phase. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't do phasing correctly.
No, or they do it too often, right?
Too often, too long, or too long.
Too long.
All right. The second part is about, you know, medicine and medication affecting your workouts and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we're not doctors. You should go to your doctor about that. But if I was to say anything about medications and like, let's just say like the steroid situation, you're talking about like, it can alter physical results. You can get better physical results or worse physical results. When it comes to medication, I think it's always based off the individual in that moment, because there's a lot of factors that you can talk about in the sense of, well, they're stressed out from work. They're not sleeping well. There's other factors than just the medication. I think too many times we're trying to pull one thing. I know we have a buddy who talks all nutrition and doesn't really think about programming at all. And I think to myself like, well, programming matters, sleep matters, everything matters together. It's figuring out what a person needs the most. And if the medication is playing a role, it's probably your doctor who's going to have to find out, not if you have those symptoms, right?
Yeah. I think another thing too, like as trainers, is that in terms of medication is that like, number one, if it's a medication that they're just going to be on, then it's kind of our job to like work around that. Right. 2, I think that it's also something that like we shouldn't really, I hate saying this, but like shouldn't be paying attention to. And I mean that in terms of like, let's focus on the things we can fix. Like you're saying, like sleep levels, stress, things like that. Like, dude, I can't, if they're taking a steroid, they're taking a steroid, right? I can't take them off the medication, right? Or if they're not losing weight, you know, because they're on certain medication, then, hey, that's what it is. I usually tell people like, hey, go talk to your doctor. Let them know that you're trying to do this. Maybe they can adjust levels. Maybe they can change things like this, you know, just.
Or maybe we could change our perspective and focus on strength instead of just weight.
Yeah, that too, where it's like, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at is that like, it's almost like this different realm We focus on what we focus on, right? If the medication is an issue, okay, take it to their doctor. But at this point in time, it's like, let's focus on what we're doing. Let's focus on what we can control. And that is just like a part of their life that they just have to sort of deal with, you know. Changing perspective is a good idea. I guess at the end of the day, just saying, focus on what you can control.
All right, guys, if you like what we're doing, please check us out on Apple and Spotify, and you can rate and review us. Also, we're on YouTube. You can leave a comment down below. You can subscribe. We also have our website, SS Empowered. We have free blogs, free guides, and programs for their own purchase. Our email is Strength Solutions Empowered. On Facebook, it's Strength Solutions. On TikTok, it's Strength Solutions Empowered, or strength.solutions.pod. And Instagram is Strength Solutions Empowered. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions
Until
Nathaniel.
next time, guys. What? Woo!